My name is Emily, and I am 28 years old. Today, I want to share the story of how my life profoundly changed after marriage. Before I walked down the aisle, I harbored dreams, vivid aspirations of finding my soulmate, of building a life brimming with love and boundless happiness. For a precious while, I genuinely believed I had found it. It all began 3 years ago when I first met Ryan. He embodied everything I had ever envisioned in a partner: tall, effortlessly charming, with a smile that possessed the power to illuminate any room. Our paths crossed at a friend's wedding, and our encounter felt plucked straight from the pages of a romantic movie. I can still vividly recall the way his gaze met mine from across the room. In that instant, it felt as if the entire world faded away, leaving only the two of us. Ryan approached me with a confident stride, yet his voice held a gentle softness that immediately put me at ease. "Hi," he said. "I'm Ryan, and you are the most beautiful woman I've seen tonight." I laughed nervously, unsure how to respond, but he continued to speak, sharing snippets of his life, inquiring about mine, and effortlessly making me laugh with his playful jokes. By the close of the evening, we were dancing beneath the whimsical fairy lights, and I felt an unfamiliar sensation, a spark, a profound connection I had never experienced before. After that magical night, Ryan and I began our journey together. We embarked on long, winding drives, enjoyed idyllic picnics in the park, and spent countless hours conversing about everything under the sun. Our deepest dreams, our hidden fears, our cherished childhood memories. He would surprise me with bouquets of flowers, leave sweet little notes tucked onto my car, and consistently find ways to make me feel uniquely special. One evening, after approximately a year of dating, Ryan led me to the beach. The sun was beginning its descent, painting the sky in breathtaking hues of pink and orange. We walked barefoot along the shoreline, our laughter mingling with the sound of the waves, our hands clasped tightly. Then, quite suddenly, he stopped and knelt on one knee. My heart began to race furiously as he produced a small velvet box. "Emily," he uttered, looking up at me, his eyes glistening with tears. "You are the love of my life. I cannot fathom a single day without you. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down my face as I choked out a resounding "Yes!" "Yes, of course I will." He gently slipped the ring onto my finger, and we kissed passionately as the waves crashed against the shore. It felt like an ethereal dream, a scene from a cherished fairy tale. Our wedding was nothing short of magical. My family adored Ryan, and his family welcomed me with open arms and warm embraces. We exchanged our vows in a breathtaking garden, adorned with a tapestry of vibrant flowers and twinkling fairy lights. I wore a delicate white lace gown, and Ryan's eyes seemed unable to stray from me. We shared our first dance to Ed Sheeran's "Perfect," and as he held me close, he whispered, "I will love you forever, Emily." I believed him. I believed every single word he uttered. The initial weeks of our marriage unfolded like a continuous dream. Ryan and I settled into a cozy little house on the edge of town. Our evenings were filled with shared cooking, watching movies, and dreaming aloud about our future together. He would tenderly kiss my forehead each morning before heading to work, always reaffirming his love for me. But then everything began to change. It started subtly with small, almost imperceptible shifts. Ryan would return home from work looking increasingly stressed, becoming quieter, more distant. At first, I attributed it to simple fatigue. But then his temper began to flare over the most trivial matters. If dinner wasn't precisely on time, or if I dared to ask too many questions about his day, he would snap. One night, he yelled at me for accidentally breaking a glass. His voice was so loud, his face so contorted with rage, I barely recognized the man I had married. "I'm sorry, Ryan," I stammered, trembling, but he didn't calm down. Instead, he stormed out of the house, not returning until hours later. As days bled into weeks, Ryan's behavior grew more unpredictable. One night, I awoke to find him gone from our bed. Panicked, I searched the house and eventually found him standing on the roof, staring intently at the night sky. "Ryan," I called out, my voice quivering, "what are you doing up here?" He turned to me, his eyes wide and wild. "Do you hear them, Emily? The voices. They won't stop." I froze. Voices. What was he talking about? That's when a chilling realization dawned upon me. Something was terribly, fundamentally wrong. Ryan wasn't merely stressed. He was battling something far deeper. Something he had never disclosed to me. "Ryan," I said softly, taking a cautious step toward him, "come inside. It's cold out here. We can talk, okay? Whatever it is, I'm here for you." He hesitated for a moment, then nodded slowly and followed me back inside. I made him some tea and sat beside him on the couch. He held the cup, staring into it as if it contained the answers to all his unspoken problems. "Ryan," I began gently, "are you okay? You can tell me anything." For a fleeting moment, I thought he might finally open up, but then he shook his head and offered me a weak, strained smile. "I'm fine, Emily. Just a bad day, that's all." Over the subsequent weeks, Ryan's behavior became increasingly erratic. He would awaken in the dead of night, pacing the room and muttering incoherently to himself. Sometimes I would find him sitting alone in the dark, staring blankly at nothing. When I attempted to engage him in conversation, he would either brusquely brush me off or erupt in anger. On one occasion, when I asked him why he seemed so stressed, he yelled, "Why can't you just leave me alone?" and slammed the door shut. But it wasn't solely the anger that gnawed at me. It was the profound fear I saw reflected in his eyes. He looked like a man relentlessly haunted by an invisible tormentor. One night, everything came crashing down. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when a deafening crash echoed from the living room. I rushed in to find Ryan standing over a shattered mirror, his fists bleeding. "Ryan, what happened?" I cried, rushing to his side. He looked at me, his eyes brimming with tears. "They won't stop, Emily," he whispered. "The voices, they keep telling me things. I can't take it anymore." My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces as the devastating truth became undeniably clear. Ryan wasn't just angry or stressed. He was fighting a brutal, internal battle with his own mind, and he hadn't confided in anyone, not even me. That night, after Ryan finally drifted into an uneasy sleep, I sat in bed, unable to stem the flow of my tears. I replayed all the missed signs, all the instances where he had tried desperately to conceal his pain. I knew with absolute certainty that I could no longer ignore it. I needed to help him, but I felt utterly lost, unsure of how. The next day, I called his sister, Rachel. She was the only family member Ryan was truly close to, and I desperately hoped she could offer some insight. "Rachel," I said, my voice trembling uncontrollably, "I think something's seriously wrong with Ryan. He's been acting so strange lately, angry, distant, and he says he hears voices." There was a long, heavy pause on the other end of the line before Rachel finally spoke. "Emily," she said quietly, her voice laced with sadness, "there's something you need to know." Rachel explained that Ryan had been diagnosed with severe schizophrenia in his early 20s. He had undergone years of therapy and had been on medication. But a few months before our wedding, he had made the fateful decision to stop taking his meds, convinced he no longer needed them. "He didn't want to tell you," Rachel explained. "He thought you might not marry him if you knew. He wanted to protect you from this." I was stunned into silence. How could he have kept something so profoundly important from me? But as the initial shock began to recede, I realized it didn't truly matter. I loved Ryan, and I wasn't going to abandon him. That evening, I sat Ryan down and gently relayed what Rachel had shared. At first, he vehemently denied it, insisting he was fine and didn't require help. But when I gently told him I had seen the raw pain in his eyes, he finally broke down. "I didn't want you to see me like this," he sobbed, tears streaming down his face. "I thought I could handle it, Emily. I thought I could be normal for you." I held him tightly as he wept, my heart aching with profound empathy for his suffering. "Ryan," I said softly, "you don't have to handle this alone. I'm here and I'll always be here. But we need to get you help." Persuading Ryan to agree to see a doctor was an arduous task. He was consumed by terror, terrified of being judged, of being labeled crazy. But after weeks of gentle, persistent persuasion, he finally conceded. The doctor confirmed Rachel's account. Ryan's schizophrenia had indeed returned, and he urgently needed to resume his medication. They also strongly recommended therapy to equip him with coping mechanisms for his episodes. The road ahead was undeniably fraught with difficulty. Some days, Ryan would stubbornly refuse to take his medication, claiming they made him feel foggy and detached. On other days, he would lash out, frustrated with himself and the relentless grip of his illness. But through every trial, I steadfastly remained by his side. Despite the overwhelming challenges, there were luminous moments, glimpses that reminded me precisely why I had fallen so deeply in love with Ryan in the first place. Like the time we enjoyed a picnic in the park and he surprised me with a heartfelt drawing he had made of us. Or the nights we stayed up late, talking about our dreams, laughing freely, and holding each other close. One evening, as we watched the sunset from our porch, Ryan turned to me and said, "Thank you for not giving up on me, Emily." I smiled through my tears. "I promise to love you in sickness and in health, Ryan," I replied, and I meant it. Our story, however, was far from over. Every new day brought fresh challenges, but it also presented new opportunities for us to grow stronger together. Ryan's illness did not define him, and it did not define our love. But if there was one profound lesson I had gleaned from this entire ordeal, it was that love is not about flawless perfection. It is about standing unwavering by each other through the fiercest storms, even when the skies appear darkest and most menacing. Yet, as days stretched into months, Ryan's behavior worsened. Despite the ongoing therapy and medication, his mood swings became more severe, more unpredictable. He would transform from the loving, gentle man I had married into someone I barely recognized. The yelling became a daily occurrence, and his anger seemed to know no bounds. One night, after yet another argument over something utterly trivial, he slammed his fist on the table with such force that it shook violently. "Why do you always make me feel like I'm not enough?" he shouted, his face contorted with rage. I froze, tears streaming down my face. "Ryan, I'm trying to help you." "Why can't you see that?" But my words only seemed to ignite his fury further. He stormed out of the house, leaving me utterly alone in the deafening, oppressive silence. The next morning, I knew I could no longer shoulder this burden alone. I called my parents and poured out my entire heart to them. My mom, always the calm voice of reason, listened patiently. "Emily," she said gently, "I know you love him, but love isn't supposed to make you feel this way. You've done everything you possibly can, but you need to think about yourself too." Her words struck me with the force of a physical blow. For months, I had been so consumed with helping Ryan that I had completely neglected my own mental and emotional well-being. I was utterly exhausted, constantly walking on eggshells, perpetually terrified of what might trigger his next outburst. That night, I sat alone in our bedroom, gazing at our wedding photo. I remembered the sacred vows we had exchanged to love and support each other through good times and bad. But how, I wondered, do you uphold a vow when the person you love no longer treats you with love or even basic respect? I thought about the woman I used to be, happy, confident, brimming with dreams. I didn't recognize that woman anymore. For the very first time, I dared to ask myself a question I had meticulously avoided. Is this truly the life I want? And for the very first time, I allowed myself to answer honestly. The following day, I told Ryan we needed to talk. He sat across from me, looking tired and distant, a shadow of his former self. "Ryan," I began, my voice trembling uncontrollably, "I love you. I always have, and I always will. But I can't keep living like this. I'm exhausted, and I feel like I've lost myself completely." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a complex mix of sadness and anger. "So what are you saying, Emily? You're giving up on me?" "No," I said softly, "I'm not giving up on you. But I can't save you, Ryan. You need to save yourself, and I can't do that for you." It was the hardest decision I had ever made in my life, but I knew, with every fiber of my being, that it was the right one. The next few weeks were a tumultuous whirlwind of lawyers, endless paperwork, and a torrent of tears. Ryan pleaded with me to stay, promising he would change, but I had heard those promises countless times before. "I'm not leaving because I don't love you," I told him during one of our last heart-wrenching conversations. "I'm leaving because I love myself enough to know I deserve better." After the divorce was finalized, I moved back in with my parents. At first, I felt like an utter failure, as a wife, as a person. But with the gentle passage of time, I slowly began to heal. I started attending therapy, where I learned to process the immense emotional trauma I had endured. I also began the beautiful journey of rediscovering myself. I took up painting, a passion I had cherished but had abandoned during my marriage. I reconnected with old friends and gradually started to rebuild my shattered confidence. 2 years later, I was a completely different person, stronger, wiser, and immeasurably happier. One sunny afternoon, while sitting at a charming cafe, a man approached me. He possessed kind eyes and a warm, inviting smile. "Hi," he said. "I couldn't help but notice you from across the room. Would you mind if I joined you?" I hesitated for a moment, then offered him a genuine smile. "Sir," we spent hours talking, and for the first time in years, I felt a spark of hope, a feeling I had long believed was irrevocably lost. Today, as I sit here sharing this deeply personal story, I realize that my marriage to Ryan was both the hardest and the most profoundly important chapter of my life. It taught me the true, multifaceted meaning of love, not just for someone else, but crucially for myself. I don't blame Ryan for what transpired. He was fighting battles I couldn't possibly comprehend, and I sincerely hope he finds peace someday. But I've learned that sometimes the most loving act you can perform for someone is to let them go. Life doesn't always unfold according to our meticulously crafted plans, but it possesses an uncanny way of guiding us precisely to where we are meant to be. For me, that meant having the courage to walk away from a relationship that was systematically breaking me and finding the inner strength to bravely start anew. And as I eagerly anticipate this new chapter of my life, I carry with me the most vital lesson I have ever learned. What appears perfect isn't always real, but what's real is always worth fighting for. Emily's story imparts two incredibly powerful lessons for anyone embarking on a new journey with someone or contemplating making a lifelong commitment. The first lesson she shared is this: think carefully before making any significant decision. Love can indeed feel magical and utterly overwhelming, especially in its nascent stages when everything appears flawless. But love alone is insufficient to build a life together. It is paramount to invest the time to truly understand the person you are committing to. Do they genuinely share your core values? Can they communicate with kindness and empathy, even during disagreements? Are they willing to confront life's inevitable challenges alongside you? As a unified team, Emily candidly admitted that she rushed into her marriage with Ryan, swept away by the intoxicating romance of it all. She trusted her heart implicitly, but she failed to take the necessary time to ask deeper questions or to acknowledge the red flags that, in hindsight, were undeniably present. While love is undeniably important, it is equally crucial to approach such monumental decisions with clarity, thoughtfulness, and a healthy dose of pragmatism. Life is not a fairy tale. It is real, and it demands real, sustained effort. The second, equally vital lesson she learned is this: a person is not always what they appear to be on the surface. What we perceive externally is often merely one facet of someone's intricate story. Ryan initially seemed perfect, kind, romantic, thoughtful. But beneath that polished exterior, he was battling profound internal issues that Emily only uncovered after they were already married. This revelation is not an endorsement to distrust everyone you encounter, but it does underscore the importance of taking ample time to genuinely get to know someone before committing your entire life to them. Observe how they navigate stress, how they treat others, and how they react when circumstances don't align with their expectations. Do not allow superficial appearances to blind you to the underlying truth. Emily's experience serves as a poignant reminder that love should not just feel right, it should also make logical sense. A lifelong commitment represents one of the most significant decisions you will ever make, and it unequivocally deserves your patience, your meticulous attention, and your accumulated wisdom. Before embarking on a life with someone, earnestly ask yourself, do I truly know this person? Are we genuinely prepared to grow together, even through the most arduous times? Emily's journey, though undeniably painful, ultimately taught her that it is far better to wait and be absolutely sure than to impulsively rush into something that could ultimately lead to profound heartbreak. Her story encourages everyone to approach love with both their heart and their mind, thereby ensuring that the foundation upon which they construct their life is strong, honest, and enduringly true.